What the fuck is wrong with you?
I'm gonna get shot. This show isn't big enough to be cool with an unpopular opinion. This is career suicide. Let's get one thing straight, I like this game. The art is nice, the music is amazing, nothing is broken or doesn't work as it should, nothing is blatantly awful. There's just a few things that really take me out of the experience Bastion provides. I know I'm not making any sense right now, but I'll do my best to explain what I mean when we get there.
Ground forms up under his feet as it pointing the way. He don't stop to wonder why.
A tragic accident involving binoculars left the kid without peripheral vision. The kid is one of 4 people to survive the calamity, an event that has eradicated and fragmented the city of Salondia. Maybe all of civilization and possibly the planet? I don't know, it's not clear. Don't worry about it. The kid fights his way to the Bastion, a structure that survived the calamity that can put everything back together again so long as he recovers the 6 cores scattered about the fragmented remains of Salondia. And our narrator is going to give us every detail along the way. Every single detail. Bastion has been praised for its voice acting, and it deserves to be. In a cool blend of structured storytelling with a procedural twist, Bastion's narrator basically spins a play-by-play of your actions into the actual game's narrative.
He sets foot inside one of Salondia's famous watering holes. Inside's old Rondi, the bartender. The calamity got him for his drinking bit. Rondi always wanted his ashes scattered here.
It feels like the story being told is my own, not in the way other games do it where a quote important decision unquote creates an illusion of choice, but on a much smaller scale that executes naturally and without bringing attention to itself. He also drops hints and lore about the world we're in as he tells the story, and that fusion of function and form hits a sweet spot. You can tell while you're playing Bastion that care was taken in writing the narrator's lines. I wish this gravely sexy machismo voice would narrate my life too, just not every waking detail. The kid wanted to make himself a sandwich, so he headed into the pantry to grab himself some bread. Then he grabbed everything he needed from the fridge. Kid always fancied his bread toasted. Can't say I blame him. I'd toast my bread a lot more if I had a Hello Kitty toaster. Kid figured it'd take a few seconds for his bread to heat up, so he poured himself some soda. Then suppose he had a change of heart. Kid always struggled with decisions. He must have forgotten all about the sandwiches because he made his way south to his— Shut up! Listening to a narrator read me the transcript of what I'm doing for 5 whole hours is not that enjoyable. I love the idea being attempted here, and there are a lot of really strong moments that the narrator sells magnificently, but there's also plenty of times where he isn't necessary or just sounds like he's run out of things to say. There's no quiet moment in Bastion, and I think it suffers because of it. The narration stops being special and you begin to realize that it's kind of a gimmick. Still, it's a good gimmick, and that deserves to be acknowledged even if I did start tuning him out towards the end. Collecting cores for the Bastion is your goal, but in order to get them, you have to fight through many different areas and combat a multitude of enemies. Bastion takes you to a lot of different places, and there are typical places you'll go that read video games like the volcano level or the ice level, but in between those areas you're traveling through a mine shaft or heading to a refinery or taming the various kinds of wilds. Despite seeing some of what you'd expect, there's a lot of unique places that you won't find outside of Bastion. On the other hand, a lot of the level design, to me, just resembled walking through corridors, but that's okay because it knows that and builds a challenge around knowing that. Enemies will chase you into corners and turrets will spawn on either side of you to add more pressure, and what is probably my favorite part of Bastion, you can fall off the sides of the platforms. The game encourages both getting in the faces of your enemies and picking them off from afar, and it does this as well as force the player to be conscientious of their movements almost purely with how the levels are designed. I just wish I could revisit previous levels I've completed, but I can't because those areas are basically crumbling to pieces. Even though the floor tiles are rising up to meet me, so why would it collapse when I leave?
You don't stop to wonder why.
Now hold on a second, no, explain to me how these levels are simultaneously falling to pieces and rising up to complete themselves. I know the game says that it becomes unstable when I take the core, and that would explain why I can't go back, except the second level of the game doesn't do that when I take the core from there, and it acknowledges that.
He hears the whole place groan, but it's too tough to fall.
So what the fuck? I mean, your game is short to begin with. Wouldn't it have been better if I could revisit levels and look for things I might have missed? Once you obtain all the cores for the Bastion, one of your fellow survivors flips his lid and tears the Bastion apart before leaving to inform a race of people known as the Oorah to the true cause of the calamity, which he apparently knows due to a strange journal you find while putzing around on one of the levels. You know, I think I'd be able to do my job just a little better if someone could just tell me what caused the calamity in the first place. No? Putting my life in danger here would be nice if I knew how fixing the Bastion helps our current situation. Nothing? Just go do it then? Are you a bad guy? Is this what's going on? Are you preying on the innocence of my youth? Because you can just tell me right now, I'd be happy to help you rule the world or whatever, you just have to be honest with me. Now that the Bastion's all messed up, it can't absorb the cores to do its job, but it can still take shards, which for all intents and purposes are just cores. There's nothing different about them. You put them in the machine and you get to upgrade one of the Bastion's buildings. Yes, with each core you find on every level, you can upgrade the Bastion and build places to make the kit stronger. You can upgrade your weapons at the forge, apply special passive effects to the kit from the distillery, change your weapon loadout and your special weapon move at the arsenal, collect rewards for completing challenges posted on the monument, add difficulty modifiers at the shrine, and purchase items you might have missed on the level you completed at the Lost and Found. Seriously though, why can't I just go back? All of this stuff adds depth to Bastion's gameplay. Or at least that's what it's trying to do. Oh god, don't hit me! This is my biggest gripe with Bastion, and I know I can't be alone on this. I know I said the level design encourages taking action, but the actions you take aren't anything special. It's not bad per se, but if you've played it, you have to concede that a good chunk of it is just mashing your attack buttons until whatever it is you're hitting is dead. There are certain enemies that have more to them than that, like the turrets that you can kill in one hit if you counter their projectiles, or the Oorah soldiers that you can stun if you counter them, or the peckers that can be killed in one hit if you counter their charge attack. I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that you can kill every single enemy if you just counter their attack in some way. And once you've figured out all the tricks your counter can do, the turrets are swapped out for plants that still do the same thing turrets do, but you can't counter kill them, and now you have to wait for them to stop shooting at you before you can hit them. Or just wait. Wait for the flower to open. Wait again. Wait some more. Or just run past them. But if I'd rather run away from an enemy than engage it, then it might as well not be there, right? In an action game? You know what else might as well not be there? These upgrades. Upgrading weapons is useful and kind of cool, but in every level I go to, I'm being handed a new weapon that's advantageous in the level I get it in. Why should I bother upgrading my pistols to do more damage if I'm going to get a rifle that one-shots those pesky flowers in the level where those flowers are the main enemy? Even better, who needs to learn enemy patterns when I have a flamethrower that breaks through their defenses? And yeah, none of those passives or upgrades to my weapons do enough to considerably change the gameplay at all. It's all a nice setup, but it doesn't follow through with those upgrades. It doesn't make them a fundamental part of the game that I'm playing, so I'm inclined to ignore them completely. Okay, I am being a little unfair. Bastion's clearly trying to be entertaining, and it is. Even though I'm mashing the B button, it's still satisfying to execute a perfectly timed dodge roll or a power shot from my bow that careens through multiple targets. There are proving grounds that are special challenge zones that encourage you to think outside the box and complete a challenge using a specific weapon, and getting that first place prize is ultimately gratifying. There's even one particular boss fight that takes advantage of the simple combat system, and it was really cool because it wasn't just a larger form of a smaller enemy, and it made me appreciate the simplicity of bashing something over the head. So there, the ankle gator was awesome. And adorable. The last shard we need is being guarded by the Oorah I mentioned before, and the spaz that messed up the Bastion. Beat him, get the shard, and restore Celandia. Now at this point you're supposed to be invested in the restoration of Caelondia because throughout the game our narrator provides us with details about what life in Caelondia was like before the Calamity. Bastion's greatest accomplishment is its world building. Every item you find, every level you go to, every weapon you use is accompanied by a piece of lore spoken by the narrator. The Brusher's Pike is called that because there used to be a group called the Brushers that tamed the wilds. The Pith plushie you find is a doll meant to resemble Pith, the bull god of commotion. Slowly, you learn about the world as it was before. This is amazing! You have fleshed out a world without ever putting me in it. You have established a universe through the use of key items and strategically written lines of dialogue. This is amazing presentation and I wish other games did something like it.
Things will go back to the way they used to be.
Oh, so after I kiss your ass, now you want to tell me what the Bastion does. I'm going to spoil the ending to Bastion right now, so if you don't want to hear it, skip to the end of the video to avoid that. The Bastion is a time machine. It can revert time to a point before the Calamity happened. The Calamity was caused by a device constructed by the people of Caelondia as a last resort against its enemies, but it backfired and blew Caelondia up instead. You have to make one of two choices at the end of Bastion, because it was 2011 and apparently every fucking game that came out in 2011 that was worth talking about had a choice to make in it. Restore the world to a previous state and hope that history won't repeat itself, or activate the evacuation protocols of the Bastion and make it mobile, thus moving forward. Do I even have to spell out the meaning behind these two choices for you? Ah, fuck this, we're going to space. The true purpose of the Bastion is kept away from us until the very end, and that's horse crap. Can you imagine knowing what the Bastion is capable of from the beginning, or even just knowing it can evacuate survivors, being told all that amazing lore about Caelondia before it got blown up, and then having to make that decision? Yes, to be fair, that is still your decision, but it's only one you're aware of for the very last moments of the game after being told the unfortunate truth that it's unsure whether or not restoring the world is going to fix it. And of course it's not going to fix it. The narration makes such a heavy implication that it doesn't.
There's one problem with a place that sets things back to a bygone time. You can't test it. If the Calamity happened already, what's to stop it from happening again? You're wondering if there ain't some other way out of this mess. The weight of the Calamity. It's on our shoulders. We can't just let it go.
I mean, just taking out that dialogue and being a little more subtle would have been so much better. Better yet, get rid of the choice. Make it restore only and have the message of changing the past is futile hit so much harder. Evacuation is presented so one-sidedly and it completely deflated the tension I'm sure they wanted out of the ending. Fuck. And that's Bastion. Superb visuals and world building, an impeccable soundtrack and stellar level design. Okay gameplay and an out of nowhere decision that is honestly out of place. It obviously deserves the recognition it's been given because it does things AAA titles are too afraid to do, and more importantly does it phenomenally. But it also needs to be criticized for its shortcomings, things that we wouldn't let other games get away with. I wouldn't consider Bastion a classic, but I would consider it a standard, if that makes sense. It's a game that other games should strive to surpass, but it's not a game I'd induct into the Hall of Fame anytime soon. Until next time, folks, my name's GC. Remember that you are amazing, and keep on playing positive.